Man, I tell you, I be having the hardest time with these lives getting them to work. It'd be crazy. What up, YouTube fam? We in here. It's Friday. Uh, so let me just say, and I really don't know why we have to say this because it should be obvious, but this is a live stream. So I'm not gonna go back and fix anything. I'm not gonna edit anything. It is what it is. I may add chapters because I do have some things I want to talk about in this live, but I don't know. I might not. Also, I'm recording this through the Canon webcam utility and it caps it at 360p. So, yes, this is only a 360p video. No, I probably will not get a capture card to have 1080p video because I don't want to do that. So, I'm not going to do that. So, take it for what it is. We in here. It's Friday. We made it to the end of the week. Thank goodness. It's been a good week, though. I have no complaints. It's been a good week. It's been a little hot here. I'm not really digging that. I like it when it's cooler because then I don't have. I had turned my AC on yesterday. It was annoying. Um. So yeah, we in here. It's Friday, chilling chat. Appreciate you coming through, rocking. I got my laptop here this time, so hopefully, I could see comments and stuff a little bit better. So anyway, I've been gone for a minute. I took a little bit of time off. I think it's been 4 weeks, 5 weeks, something like that. So I took a little bit of time off. One, I had some work stuff going on. Two, I've redid my office. So I painted and changed some stuff up. I might show it in a video or something like that. But it's a different, you see it's different. Lighting stuff is different, everything is different. So I wanted to get that in place. I had a weekend where I went back to my hometown to meet up with some folks. I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. And yeah, just been doing some stuff around my apartment and then, just life stuff. So I intentionally took a few weeks off. Everything is good. I'm back. I have some big plans for what I want to do with this channel and content that I want to upload and the frequency of how I want to upload. So, I had a lot of conversation with the guys that I met up with, and so I got some big plans on what I want to do. But yeah, all is good. Everything is good. Let me figure out how to get my chat. Okay, here we go. Good deal. Got that. Yeah, so in this chilling chat, man, I want to talk about the weekend that I had meeting up with some guys, some content creators slash photographers that have become good friends of mine. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the Nikon Z9 and what it means for me as a Canon shooter and what I feel that it means just for Canon in general and some things that I've seen from Canon people on some forums that I'm a part of. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about valuing yourself as an artist and or creator. And there's a post that I saw in one of the Facebook groups this morning that sparked me to want to talk about that. And then I want to talk about staying true to who you are as a creator. And there was a comment that I got on one of my videos that made me want to talk about that. So there's a lot that I want to talk about in this video. It might be a long one, but we in here for the long haul. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. So I believe it was 2 weekends ago. I met up with three other YouTube creators slash photographers. I will edit the description and I will put them in, but it's SJ Square Photography, T Mid, and Ryan Troy. All of these guys have YouTube channels. And the crazy thing is, I found all three of these guys through YouTube. So I found Ryan Troy first because like I've said in other videos, like I pretty much only watch YouTube. Like I don't watch regular TV. Like I just watch YouTube stuff. So, every day I'm always just like putting in a keyword and looking at stuff that got posted like that day, or if I'm a little bit behind, I'll look at this week just to see new content, because YouTube is notorious for just pushing the same content up. And I don't care about that. So I can't remember what the keyword was, but I stumbled across this channel and I watched one of his videos and I noticed that he was in Columbus, my old hometown. So, I left him a comment and was like, yo, you in Columbus? Da, da, da. I found out that he was a Columbus dude. So, I was rocking with his videos ever since because, he seemed like a cool cat. He's in Columbus. Everywhere that he's doing videos, I'm recognizing where he's at. So that was cool. So, yeah, I linked up with him through YouTube. And then there was another guy, SJ Square Photography, Stan. I found him the same way. And, I just really dug his energy. Like, he was cool. Like, I remember I watched one video and his energy was so cool. I went back and binge watched. I think it was a Saturday. I went back and binge watched all of his videos. Well, maybe not all of them, but I mean, I definitely watched at least a dozen of them. Cool dude, you know what I'm saying? So I started rocking with him on YouTube. And then those two guys eventually linked up and did a video together. So Ryan is in Columbus, Stan SJ Square, he's down in Kentucky. So for those that don't know geography, they're bordering states. Okay. So when I saw that, I'm like, okay, yo, like I got to make it back home and link up with these guys and do some stuff. So last guy, T Mid, found him the same way. So there's a theme here, it's like I like to support. First of all, I like to support Black creators. I'm gonna say it. And then number two, I just like to support channels that are, putting out content that's different, that's intriguing, that's not following all the nonsense that YouTube is these days. So T Mid found him the same way. And I just started rocking with his content as well. Like, the thing that I dug about T Mid, he was very he's very upfront and honest that he's like, yo, like he was just getting into photography stuff, like he wasn't a professional, he had a regular 9 to 5, so I appreciated the honesty and humility, and just seeing his growth from when I started watching his content to where he's at now, it was hella cool. So I had reached out to Ryan and Stan and was like, yo, I'm coming to Columbus. We gotta link up for the weekend. We gotta do some content. So they like, all right, bet. Set it up. Let's do it. So then we're like, okay, T Mid, he's in the DMV area. So we working with him, like, yo, you gotta fly out, bro. Like we all, because eventually we all started, we all connected on YouTube. So we all were kind of um staying in touch with each other to YouTube or whatever. So we like, yo, Mid, like you got to come out too. Like I picked the dates, booked the flight, was like, boom, this is when I'm coming in. So we told Mid like, okay, bet you got to come out. So I was working on him. Stan was working on him. Eventually he was like, all right, I'm in. So fast forward to two weekends ago, you basically got 4 creators in 4 different locations that came together for a weekend to just do photography and make YouTube content. Now, I will definitely say I'm terrible, way more terrible than those guys, because they've already put out some of the videos from the weekend. I'm struggling to even get caught up with the stuff. So I haven't put anything out yet, but I definitely will be doing that. But we basically just got together, did photography stuff, did YouTube content stuff, and it was a hella good weekend, man. Like all 3 of these guys were super cool. And we all just hit it off. All of our personalities linked together. Me and Ryan, we had a debate about something one day that we was doing a shoot, and it'll be in one of the videos that we do. But we they all good people. We all just really linked up. We clicked. And the thing that was cool about that, and the reason why I want to talk about it, is to basically just say YouTube can definitely be more than just videos on the internet. Like without YouTube, I never would have met any of these guys. Yet here we are linking up for a weekend. We got a group text that we in every day, bouncing ideas off of each other, pushing each other to do this, do that. It never would have happened if it wasn't for YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So it's like YouTube for people can be more than what I think people may think it is. Like people think YouTube is just videos, but YouTube really is a way to connect with people that are just like you and are into the things that you're into. And that's really how that came about. You know what I'm saying? Like these guys are posting YouTube videos about photography. I post YouTube videos about photography. I love to shoot. These guys love to shoot. And so we came together that way. So it's a great thing. And I think that people, and I've said this before in videos, people don't realize the amount of work and effort that goes into YouTube videos. Like, I keep my videos simple as hell. And it's still like, even to get the stuff set up to do this live stream took me 20 minutes just to, I mean, you got to have a light, you got to have a mic, you got to have a camera. I got my laptop right here so I could eventually see you got all these things that you got to get set up just to make a video, just so that way it's halfway decent in life. My setup, man, I'm not even putting in half the, like, some of these other YouTube folks, man, like, they setups is legit, you know what I'm saying? So yo, what up, SJ? What up, boy? Hey, I'm gonna have to figure out how to add you in here. DJ Mouse, I'm gonna answer that question. I'm gonna answer that question in just a minute. So yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, YouTube, there's a lot of things about YouTube that I don't like. And I talked about that heavily in my last chill and chat 3 weeks ago. So I'm not gonna dive into that again. But I wanted to just talk about the weekend that I had with these guys, because I wanted to really illustrate the good things that can come out of YouTube and what YouTube can be. Like, YouTube doesn't have to just be me sitting here by myself talking to a camera. Now, I know I'm live, so I'm kind of talking to y'all, but YouTube, it doesn't have to just be that. Like, it doesn't have to stop there. Like, you can reach out to these people, because, like, at the end of the day, we human just like you. Like, we people just like the people that watch our videos. So you can reach out to these people, and it can be more than just you watching their videos. T to the M to the I. What up? What up? I'm talking about y'all guys, man. Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out. I'm gonna have to see if I could get y'all in, because Ryan, I want to talk about the Nikon Z9. Well, all y'all cats are okay. So I did mention that. So all the guys that I kicked it with a couple weekends ago, they all Nikon guys. So I was the only Canon guy there, which was crazy. But yeah, it was all good. So that was basically I just wanted to just touch on the great weekend that I had with these guys. Like I said, I'm going to update the description to put all of their YouTube stuff in there. It's like, if y'all rock with me, y'all definitely need to rock with these guys. All just good energy, good content, and it's all something different. Like, we all kind of have our own flavor on how we do our videos, how we do our photography, all of that stuff. So it really is just, a good mix of different stuff. So I'm gonna definitely make sure I link their stuff. Actually, you know what? I could put it in the comments too. But to answer your question, DJ Mouse, how do I stay motivated as a photographer? Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard, because the problem with when you become a photographer full time, you tend to lose the time, the ability, or the motivation to do creative stuff that keeps photography interesting and worthwhile. Like, when you do client work, and I feel like I've touched on this in the video before because this is sounding familiar to me, but when you do client work, it becomes mundane, because clients, they typically want what I would consider safe photography. Like, most of your clients, like, if you shooting a family or a couple, for the most part, most of them just want your typical portraits. They just want nice portraits that they can share on social media, that they can print, put on their wall. Like, they just want safe stuff. It's not common to get, okay, so let me backtrack. Your clients typically want what's on your portfolio. So if your portfolio is full of, super crazy, super creative work, then yeah, you're obviously going to attract people that want super creative work. But for most photographers, because I would say that's more of a very small niche, for most photographers, your portfolio is going to be safe. It's going to be good, safe, solid images. So that's what what your client base are going to want. So when you're doing this client work, it becomes very stale in a way and mundane and repetitive because you're doing the same thing. Now, look, it makes money, pays the bills, so you definitely going to do it, but it can destroy your motivation to really want to do photography because it's like, I would say it's like working at a fast food joint. I've never worked at a fast food joint, but I can imagine that it's like working at a fast food joint. When you're around that food every day, no matter how much you liked it before you started working there, when you get around that food and you're around it every day, you smell it every day, you getting your free meals, so you're eating it every day. Eventually, you start to hate it and you don't want it. And if anybody mentions it, you backhand them because you like, don't even say that word around me. Don't disrespect me like that. So photography could be the same way. So how do I stay motivated? I do my best to do creative stuff. And that's really what that weekend that I just talked about 2 weeks ago, that's really what that was all about. It was about guys coming together and stepping outside of, the normal 9 to 5 or the normal, Ryan and I, we both do this full time, stepping outside of that client work and just coming together as creatives and just doing stuff that was fun and exciting. So that's how you keep that motivation there. But sometimes it's hard to do that because you might have a day or you might have a week where you got a lot of client work. And so the thought of even picking up your camera and trying to go out and do something creative and then having to edit those pictures and do all the work, sometimes you're just like, I don't want to do all that. And that happens. I just embrace that. Like, I know that there's going to be times where I'm super creative and I just want to go out and do all sorts of crazy things. And then there's going to be times where I'm just like, I just want to do my client work, make my money, and keep it moving. The key to me is to just have more of those times when I'm creative than those times when I'm not. Like, I'm realistic. Like, I don't try to tell myself that I'm going to be in this creative mindset all the time because that's just, to me, that's not it's not sustainable and it's just not realistic. Like, that's just not the way it is when you do photography full time. Like, you will have those moments where you're just like, screw it, I just don't care. But the key really to stay motivated is to always do your creative stuff, and I preach that in many videos. Like, you always have to have your creative outlet that allows you as a photographer to do what you want to do versus doing the stuff that your client wants. Did I freeze up here? Okay, so I don't know if I froze up. Like, I'm good on my desktop, but not on my laptop. So if I'm still rocking, okay. Yes, I don't know what's up. Let me refresh it on my laptop here. All right, cool. There we go. We in here. Yeah, so that was that. Moving on, I want to talk about the Nikon Z9, and that's where, man, Ryan, like, man, if y'all, how do I, man, can I add y'all into this thing? Because I want to talk about the Nikon Z9. Now, I will say I haven't done a ton of research on the camera itself. Like, I kind of just saw highlights and stuff, but I will say the one thing that really caught my attention when I saw it was the price point and the fact that the Nikon Z9 is Nikon's flagship camera and it's coming in at $5,500. Now, as a Canon shooter, I know that we got the R3 that they just released or just announced or whatever, and it's the same price point. They're not marketing as their flagship, and I do think some of the specs that I've heard about the Nikon Z9, man, like, I'm a little envious. Like, if those same specs were in the R3, maybe I would have bought it. Uh, well, get your setup right, Ryan, because man, how can I get all y'all in here if I could figure out how to get all y'all in here. But one of the interesting things that I had read and I really wanted to talk about in this was that there are people that are saying that the Nikon Z9 is a loss leader for Nikon. Now, for those that aren't familiar with what a loss leader is, it basically is a product that a company loses money on, but they push that product to get their customer base to buy other more expensive items, and therefore it offsets the cost of what they're losing on that loss leader item. So people are basically saying that the Z9 is coming in at $5,500 because Nikon is using that to try to get people to buy Z lenses. Now, when I read that, I'm like, intriguing. I know about loss leader type stuff. So I was like, okay, let me think about that for a minute. Ultimately, I don't think that that's the case. Like, I don't like, and see, Ryan would definitely know better because he's a Nikon guy. Like Ryan Troy, like he definitely rocks with Nikon. I admire that. But but like Nikon is not in the strongest financial position to put out a camera of this stature and lose money off of every camera. If they are doing that, and this is a loss leader for Nikon, they are definitely putting all their chips in the Z9, because if they are doing that and it doesn't pan out financially, I think it would be very detrimental. But I don't think that that's what Nikon is doing. Like, personally, I think Canon stuff has gotten to a point, and you could agree, you could disagree, but this is just my opinion. I think Canon has gotten to a point where their products, they're encroaching that Apple space where the product is good, but there's a premium in price. You're partly paying for the name. Product is solid. I'm a Canon shooter. I've always been a Canon shooter. I will likely always be a Canon shooter. But Canon has definitely put out some products at price points that when you look at it, I don't want to say when you look at it on paper, because I hate people that only look at stuff on paper, because it's so much more than that. And I know that for a fact, because they're like, I still rock that EOS R to this day. And like, that camera got destroyed when it came out, and I still kick ass with that camera. But Canon has definitely put out some stuff that is just like, that price point is a bit too high. I mean, like, look at the RF lenses, and people try to tell me, well, we're in the middle of a pandemic and supply this, that, and the other. I get that, but my feeling is all of these price increases that we're seeing is not solely because of the pandemic. It's because it's an opportunity to recoup costs from 2020. Like, that's just my opinion. Like, yes, I'm sure things are more expensive, but a lot of it is just supply and demand. And things are more expensive because they can be, but it's also an opportunity for a company to raise their price and say, man, supply costs are up. I didn't want to raise the price on this, but supply cost, it's up, and I can only eat so much. I had a terrible year last year. I lost a lot of money last year. Sorry, guys, I can't eat it. So it's like, whatever. But I definitely feel like, Canon is at that point where like their price point is, they're charging what they're charging because they can. So when I look at the Nikon Z9 at $5,500, their flagship, I look at a couple things. Number one, it's a mirrorless camera. Okay, so you don't have the mirror box. So that's okay. So let me backtrack. I believe Ryan, let me know. Ryan SJ Mid, let me know. But I believe the D6 was $6,500 when it came out, or even right now. I think. Don't quote me on that because I don't know, but I think D6 $6,500. So that's their flagship DSLR. So take into context, now we're going mirrorless. So there's no mirror box. Boom, you can save some money right there. From what I have read, and I need to do research on it because I really have just like seen like headline articles and like people mentioning in the comments, but I haven't read anything on it. But if I understood it correctly, there's no mechanical shutter in the Z9. So it basically is a 100% electronic shutter camera. So if that's true, now you got a shutter. That costs money. So you take that out. Now you don't have that. Then number three, the fact that Nikon is a smaller company, and from a financial perspective, I would say they're probably not in a position to where they could just charge whatever they want to charge and people are going to buy it. I think they're more aggressive in their pricing. Do I think that the Z9 is a loss leader for Nikon? Personally, I don't. I think that they have found ways to reduce cost and they're being very competitive. Do I think that they're making Canon money off of the Z9? No. But do I think that they're losing money on the Z9? I don't. Simply because I just don't think in today's time, when camera sales are down across the board, and regardless of what YouTube tries to tell you, like camera sales, when you look at camera sales today versus 5 years ago, camera sales are down dramatically. So the fact that the camera market is different than what it was 5 years ago, the fact that Nikon is a smaller company, the fact that Nikon has admitted to having some financial issues over the past few years, I just don't see them putting all their chips in and saying, let's put all our weight on a camera that is a niche camera at that. Like everybody's not going out and buying a $5,500 camera. Like a flagship camera is a small piece of the pie for any company, really. So I just don't see them putting out this camera and losing money off of every camera out of hopes to push Z sales. It would be different if this was an entry level type camera or a full frame, entry, like a cheaper camera basically that could cater to a wider market. I could possibly see him doing something like this, but how much traffic are you really going to move to your Z mount system by putting out a flagship and losing money on that flagship? I just don't think that's the case. I think in the things that they've taken out and in their aggressive pricing, they've just found a way to really make this camera appealing. And as a Canon guy, I'm looking at it like, yo, again, I'm not just a look at stuff on paper and compare that and say which one is better just by looking at specs. Don't do that. If you're like that, stop doing that, because I'm telling you that's stupid. Don't do it. But let me just for a minute just look at those specs and compare the two. Now, like I said, I haven't really dug deep into the Z9, but from the stuff that I've seen, you look at what the Z9 is offering, you look at what the R3 is offering at the same price point, and Canon is saying that the R3 is not their flagship. So when they bring out this supposed flagship, say it's the R1, how much is the R1 going to be? And how is that going to compare to what the Nikon is offering? Now, of course, we still have to wait and see what the Z9 does. Like, yeah, the teaser videos are great, the press release is great, the specs are great, but at the end of the day, specs are just specs. In real world, sometimes those specs don't materialize, and sometimes specs that seem turn out to be something big. So time will tell on that, but let's see here. Man, I think on paper the Nikon Z9 looks great, and it takes me back to when the D850 came out. Now, like I said, I've been a Nikon or a Canon guy from the jump. When that D850 came out, like I was ready to jump ship, because at the time the D850 had everything in a camera that I was wanting the Canon cameras to have, but they wouldn't put in there. And that's the thing, as a Canon guy, like that's the thing that really annoys me about Canon. And I do think that they're getting better, because I think Sony has pushed them to have to be better at this. But Canon was notorious for doing things just to try to push you to another product. And I will always look at the EOS R as an example of that. They put a single card slot in that camera when Sony and Nikon both were putting out cameras of similar price points that had dual card slots. The only reason that Canon didn't do it was because they didn't want to do it. It wasn't because they couldn't do it. It wasn't because they didn't have the ability, that they didn't have the money, that they didn't have the R&D. They just didn't do it because they didn't want to do it, because they want to try to push people to other stuff. Canon has been notorious for that. Like, you hear about the Canon cripple hammer all the time. And as a Canon guy, it's annoying to hear, because if you're not Canon, you say that and it gets annoying because everybody says that. And I'm like, chill, like just shut up. But in my heart, like I know, like there's a part of it that's true. Like there's a part of it that it's like it's business, and sometimes people don't understand that. Like there's business decisions that have to be made, and obviously no brand can cater to every single person with every camera release. So you have to understand that. And some people, I feel like they don't get that. But Canon definitely has done things that they didn't need to do, but they do because they want to. And that's again where it starts to be like that Apple comparison. Like Apple Apple stuff is great, but Apple is going to give you what they want you to have, and you're going to like it. And that's that. And if you want anything else, you're going to have to pay a premium. Like I, to this day, think that the SSD prices on MacBooks is some of the most overpriced nonsense stuff ever. Like it just like SSDs, yes, they are still pricey per gigabyte. They definitely have not come down in price the way you would have thought they would have, but they're definitely not as expensive as what Apple be charging. And I don't want to hear about reliability, optimization, like nothing. Like those SSDs are overpriced. But anyway, I digress. So when the DA50 came out, like it was everything that I wanted out of Canon. I almost jumped ship, but I'm so invested in the Canon ecosystem that it just would have been a lot of work. So this Z9, it just made me think about that because I don't need a camera right now. Like I have my R5, that's all I need. I did not get the R3 mainly because of the megapixels and because of the price point. I just didn't think that it was worth it and I didn't need it being an R5 guy. But the Z9, it looks impressive. If the R3 would have had the Z9 specs, I don't know that I would have bought it, but I would have thought harder about it. I definitely would have considered it more than I did, but I don't know. We'll see. So what camera features would make me upgrade to new gear? That's a hard question to answer because I typically upgrade when something that I'm using no longer allows me to do what I need to do, or I'm unable to be efficient at what I'm doing because I'm lacking something. So when I bought the R5, the main reason why I bought the R5, especially the main reason why I bought the R5 over the R6, was strictly because of the megapixels. When I do headshot work, what I typically do is I would take multiple man, I don't know how I'm trying to say it, but so I would get in tight. I would do some that were half body. I would do some that were portrait, some that were landscape, because it gives the client the ability to pick what makes sense and what works for them. And it allows me to essentially upsell. A client may think they only want, a head, shoulder, portrait, headshot, but then if they see something else, they're like, oh, yeah, I know where I can use that. So it gives you the opportunity to upsell that. With the R5, and one of the main reasons why I was like envious of the DA50 was because of those megapixels. With the R5, it allows me to basically shoot landscape, basically half body, and then I can just crop in to get all of those different things. So now instead of having to take 5, 6, 7 different shots, I literally can take one and I can turn that into 3 or 4, but I can still deliver an adequate number of megapixels to the client, because some of my clients, they do have strict restrictions and requirements on like the sizing of those files. So that was the main reason why I bought the R5, because I was waiting for Canon to bring out a 45, 50 megapixel camera so that I could make that workflow more efficient. So when it comes to like me buying new gear, there has to be a reason why I need that gear. Like when I bought the EOS R, I did that because of the eye autofocus. Coming from the DSLR, the focus on that, especially when you're shooting with 1.2, 1.4 glass and you want to shoot wide open. And I don't always shoot wide open because I think that's overused and I think people need to stop doing that all the time. But when you do, doing that on DSLRs, especially with Sigma glass, and I love Sigma glass, but especially with Sigma glass, like it was just hard to get tack sharp images. So you had to take so many images to hope that you got something that was sharp. So when the R came out and it had that IAF and I used it and it was a game changer, it's like, boom, I got to get it. Like at the time, my 5D4 was more than adequate, but that eye autofocus was worth the money because it made, number one, it made every shoot that I did more efficient, because now I could just focus on the client. I didn't have to take as many pictures and I could rely on that thing. I knew that I was going to have tack sharp images. So it made everything more efficient, and it also increased my keeper rating. So, instead of having a shot that I'm like, man, that's the shot right there, but it's slightly soft, so now I got to pick another one, that got eliminated with the IAF stuff. So that was cool. So when it comes to that, it's like there's no specific function or feature that would get me to buy gear. I really would look at how I could fit that into my workflow. And is it either going to make my workflow more efficient? Is it going to allow me to do something that I can't do with my current setup? Or is it just something that I want and I can get it and it would be a tax write off and it would essentially be free? If it doesn't really fit one of those three things, I typically won't, I wouldn't get it. Uh, T-Mid. Yeah, that Z7 too, whatever. Do, 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 do. Yeah, so that's that. I don't know where I was on the Nikon Z. Okay, so what I before I move to the next thing with that Nikon Z9, the interesting thing is on Canon Rumors, which I'm on Canon Rumors all the time. They have an article about the Nikon Z9 being released, and the crazy thing is there were so many people in the comments that was basically saying like that Z9 is a home run for Nikon, and I think that's a big deal because normally when another brand camera gets released, mainly a Sony, you go into the Canon forums and it's either people hating like crazy on Sony or they're trying to justify like why Canon camera is better, this, that, and the other. Personally, I think that's all a waste of time because you're never going to convince the other side that your stuff is better. Like it's never going to happen. So don't even waste your time. But that's normally what you see. Even, if a Fuji camera gets announced, a Leica, whatever, like normally you go to the Canon rumors and it's like people are either bashing it or just, again, figuring out or debating how the Canon is better. It was weird to me to see so many people in the Canon forum talking about how the Z9 is a home run for Nikon. Now, I'll definitely say, I think at this point, Canon people just dislike Sony people so much that we rocking with Nikon people now just because we can't stand Sony people. And if you're a Sony guy, I'm sorry, but I just don't like a lot of Sony people, a lot of Sony users, man, they're just annoying. So I think Canon people were just like, yeah, Nikon, they bringing out that. Come on, Nikon, like let's go arm in arm, like that picture where you had the Bloods and the Crips like together with their flags tied together. Like that's Canon and Nikon right now. Like we like come together, like we doing this. So yeah, it was crazy to see so many people talking about the Z9 being a home run, and there was a lot of people that were talking about jumping ship and switching from Canon to Nikon. And the thing about that, and the reason I brought this up is the thing about camera systems and gear, like the way that it works, you're almost always going to have it's a leapfrog, basically. Okay. Canon brings out a camera that's solid. Sony announces this camera brings it out, it's even better. Nikon comes in, brings out this camera. Oh, now we're up here. It never ends. That's the way that the cycle of electronics works. Because at the end of the day, if I bring out a product, you can see what that product is, and you can say, I want to make a product that's better. So then you bring this out, and that's just the way that it goes. So, like this notion of, jumping ship just because they bring out this camera and, oh man, this camera is awesome, and I wish Canon would do it, or I wish Sony would do it, whatever the case, it's silly to me. I mean, if you got the funds to do it and you got the time and the resources to sell your gear and do it, that's fine. But you'll be doing that forever because that's just the way that it always goes. When I was considering jumping over to Nikon when they brought the D850 out, that was more based off of the fact that there were things that I really needed from Canon and they weren't giving them to me. And not only were they not giving them to me, but I felt like they had got too comfortable with their position in the market. Canon still being number one. Sometimes I think that Canon maybe rest a little bit too comfortably on that. And I think, yes, they are still number one. But when you look at the cameras that they're selling to remain number one, people like myself are only going to stay loyal for so long with you not giving us things that every other brand is giving to their customer base. And that's where when I said earlier that I think Sony has really pushed Canon to change that, that's really what I'm talking about. If you think about 5 years ago, 5 years ago, I guarantee you, I'm gonna say I guarantee you, 5 years ago, I guarantee you, R5, R6 comes out, R5 has dual card slots, R6 has one. Guarantee you that's how it would have been 5 years ago. Because Canon would have wanted to push you to the R5. They would have wanted to say, if you absolutely need dual card slots, well, then you got to move to the R5 to get that. Sony really pushed them, and Nikon to a degree, pushed them to bring out that R6 that still had dual card slots. That wasn't something that Canon would have done 5 years ago. So, you're always going to have like this, they're doing this, they did this better. So the notion of just jumping just because something looks better, to me, it's just kind of silly. But like I said, if you got the money and the resources, cool. I'm just way too invested in Canon, and I love the ergonomics of Canon cameras. I like the colors of Canon cameras. I like the menu layout. Like, I'm used to it. For me to switch at this point, something drastic would have to happen to make my Canon cameras no longer usable for me in my workflow. Because being a full-time photographer, like, I don't have the luxury of just completely swapping systems when I have client work to do. And I've never wanted to have multiple systems, because to me, that's just not efficient with me spending my money. It's like, if I go and buy a Nikon body or a Sony body, now I got to buy Nikon or Sony glass, and then I'm going to have dual stuff. Because if I got a 7200 on my Canon, now I need a 7200 over here. So now to me, it's not very efficient from an economical standpoint. So I've never had any desire to have dual systems like that. But so that's that. Let me check these comments real quick, man. I still want to figure out how to get y'all in here, man. Like, I want y'all to jump in on this conversation somehow. But I don't know if you could do that. Maybe you can't do that on YouTube. I don't know. Okay, so moving on to the next thing. I just got a list of stuff. We chilling. I don't have. I need my whiskey, but I didn't get it, and I don't feel like going to get it. So I'm a part of the Black Photographers Facebook group. It's an interesting group. If you're a Black photographer, you're probably a part of that group. And if you're not, join the group. There's some interesting stuff in there. But there was a post this morning where a guy was doing a post for, I don't know if it was a friend, fellow photographer, I'm not sure, but a client, someone was looking for 4 hours of photography coverage for $100. And Ryan, it made me think of you because of the interview that I just watched of you yesterday, where you was doing that event stuff. But yeah, 4 hours of photography coverage for $100. So it's like, man, $25 an hour, and that's just to shoot. Like, that's not the time going home, doing whatever you're doing with the pictures, delivering them, that sort of thing. So I saw that, and it made me just want to talk about valuing yourself as an artist, as a creator. Now, the argument that people always have, there's two arguments usually. Number one, you got to start somewhere. It's the first argument. The second one is, man, sometimes people are just in a financial position where, they need money and they have to do what they have to do. Okay. So those are the two arguments usually for doing something at that price point. Now, number one, you got to start somewhere. That's true. You do have to start somewhere. And, when you're at that point where you're trying to transition from doing free work or doing photography as a hobby, and you're trying to transition over here to where you're paying, during that transition, yes, it is difficult to figure out what you need to charge, because typically your skill set, the gear that you have, and your abilities don't really allow you to charge a lot of money. Okay. So you typically feel like you got to charge very little, because why would anyone want to hire you based off of the work that you have or lack thereof, or what you can bring to the table? And that's a solid point. That's a solid point. And then the second one is, like I said, sometimes, like you're in a position where you're like, hey, I just need the money, and $100 is better than $0. I get that. Both of those are valid. But the problem is, I feel like, man, it's gotten so much worse now because of Instagram and because of the push from Apple shot on my iPhone. The problem is it completely devalues what professional photographers bring to the table. It's made people think, and this isn't new, like people have always thought that photography can be expensive and they don't understand it because people think that photography is just holding the camera, hitting the button. It's all you're doing. And people look at your price and they look at how much time you're in front of that person and they think, okay, so let's say you charge $500 for a session, it's an hour session. People are thinking you're getting paid $500 an hour. That's how most people that aren't photographers look at it. So when you have people that are doing 4 hours of photography coverage for $100, it is solidifying the stigma that photography is overpriced. Now, are there some photographers that charge a lot of money and they're not that great? Yes. But they're good at convincing people that they should pay that amount of money. But it's dangerous and it's detrimental to photography in general, even when you're starting out, even when you're pressed for money, to do this type of work for such a cheap price, because for those clients, it confirms in their mind that this is what the cost of photography should be. So when I see that photographer that wanted to charge me $700 for those 4 hours of coverage, that photographer is crazy. He is so overpriced. $100 is what he should be charging. I can't believe that this fool is charging $700 for that. And the more people that you get thinking that, yes, this should be $100 and not $700, it makes it challenging for that $700 photographer to get work. Now, as a businessman, I will definitely tell you that you cater to certain markets. So the market, the client base that are looking for that $100 4 hour coverage, that's not who you're marketing your services to, because you're never going to get them up to your price. But in every genre of work, service work, people are going to do comparisons. So when people are taking those $100 jobs, is it making it impossible for the $700 photographer to get work? No, it's not. But it makes their job harder because now they have to work harder to convince you. Not even, I don't want to say convince like they're not worth it, but I'm going to say convince because it's easy for the conversation. It makes them have to work harder to convince their clients why they're worth $700 when there's so many people that are only charging $100 to essentially do the same thing. And at the end of the day, a lot of our clients, unfortunately, can't tell the difference between the $100 work and the $700 work. As a photographer, I can look at an image and immediately I can be like, oh man, this is terrible. Like, how much did they charge for this? Like, this is, a basic, fundamental, technical photography mistake that should not have been made. Whereas the client that saw those pictures wouldn't even know. They wouldn't even have thought to even look that way. So it's like clients don't know the things that we know. And over the years, I've really had to keep that in my mind because, like, when I first started out, I would spend so much time fixing every little thing in an image because I always thought either the client would know or the client would have a photographer friend that would look at it and know. And over the years, I've come to realize that that makes my workflow much longer than it needs to be. Because the reality is, most people, even a lot of photographers, wouldn't notice these things. So the things that I was like spending my time on, there was just no point. Like, you have to have a balance between what you want to fix and what you want to leave in because it's not a big deal and nobody would notice anyway. So it's like I get it. New photographers coming in, they don't know what to charge and they do have to charge a low amount. Or if you're pressed for money, I get that. But it doesn't negate the fact that that is detrimental to the photography industry as a whole. People doing a lot of free work and a lot of really cheap work. I still feel very strongly that it doesn't necessarily make it impossible for people to have the $700 stuff. It definitely is not impossible. Like, I'm not a cheap photographer. I still get business. So it just makes it harder for us. And it doesn't have to be that way if people would value the craft. Like, one of my mission statement core values as a business, like one of my mission statement as a business is to get people to understand that photography is more than just taking a picture. Because again, that's what I think a lot of people think that photography is, that it's just someone holding a camera and taking a picture, but it's so much more than that. There's a vision, there's concepts, there's technical skills that they know. Like, people completely undervalue like the technical aspect of photography. Like, when you see an image and that person looks good in the image, it wasn't just the person showing up and someone just having a camera hitting a shutter button and there you have the picture. That was a photographer that had a vision. That was a photographer that knew how to pose that person. That was a photographer that knew about lighting and placed that subject in that right light, or used off-camera flash to create this beautiful light. That was a photographer that went back and edited that picture, retouched that picture. There's so much that goes into making that image that is so much more than just hitting that button. So, like I said, I get it, but it just, every time I see something like that, it's always a sour spot to me, because I don't worry about it. I don't say that, it's not going to take food off my table. But like I said, it makes me have to work harder, because now when clients are doing that comparing and they're just like, yo, my man over here, now I got to, I don't want to say I got to shit on my man over here, but I basically got to get my clients to understand why my stuff is worth what my cost is over that person. So yeah, so that was interesting on that. So and I'm trying to, I know I'm just like just kind of talking and like ignoring my comments, but yeah, I just had, man, just a lot of stuff, because I haven't been here. I took 3 weeks off. I haven't been here, so I got a lot to talk about. So the next thing I want to talk about, and this came from a comment that I got on one of my videos, and I don't remember which video it was, but how about clients that put filters on their images after you deliver them? Okay. Okay. So I'm going to touch on that. I'm going to touch on that. And the reason why I want to touch on that, because in the Black Photographers Facebook group, people are always like, it comes up almost every day about people doing filters and people not wanting to be tagged, and people sending emails and messages to their clients telling them, untag me from this, going back to the contracts. All this stuff drives me crazy. So if it seems like I'm getting worked up, I am, because I feel like a lot of people just don't understand the way business works. Okay. It does. Okay. So people will put in their contract, not, you can't edit the picture, you can't put filters, this, that, and the other. Clients will do it anyway. You can't give a damn about that. Okay. At the end of the day, I look at it like this. If I am delivering an image to a client and that client feels the need to put a filter on an image that I deliver to them, I failed. Convince me otherwise. It's like, if I understand what my client is looking for and I deliver what my client is looking for, I guarantee you they're not going to slap a filter on that picture. It's just the way I feel. But let's go that aside. Let's say you delivered a rock solid image and that client still feels the need to put a filter on there. If you are doing this as a business and you are trying to play Instagram police And every client that you deliver images to, you're going through trying to make sure that they're not posting it and putting a filter on it. And if they do, you're saying untag me. You're crazy. If someone wants to book you, if they see a picture that you're tagged in, number one, most people can tell that a filter's been put on a picture. Instagram's been out long enough. Most people can look at a picture and say, yeah, there was some sort of filter put on that. I look at pictures all the time and I'm like, yeah, there's a filter on that. Number one, pretty easy to tell. Number two, if somebody wants to hire you, they are not going to base that decision off of some Instagram pictures. They're going to go to your website or they're going to go to your Instagram. They're going to look at the work that you have. That is what they're going to base that decision off of. They are not going to look at something that you are tagged in and just say, oh, that picture is terrible. I'm never hiring that person. No, they will go back to your Instagram or your website to see if your work was as crappy as what they think it is based off of that image that you were tagged in. It's like once you deliver an image to a client, it really is out of your hands. And now people on the Facebook group will always be like, well, it's in my contract. You know, they can't do that. So I'll send them a message, this, that, and the other. Listen, y'all, contracts are cool. You got to have contracts. 100%. You got to have contracts. But let me tell you the reality of contracts. They're basically useless. Okay. They really are basically useless. Like a contract really helps if someone is trying to come after you. But in terms of you enforcing your contract amongst your clients, number one, to really be able to do that, you would have to take legal action. Do you know how expensive that would be? Do you know how that would make you look as a business that someone put an IG filter on one of your pictures? So you decided to send them a cease and desist, or you decided to sue them? Like, do you realize what that would do for your business? Does anybody want to work with a photographer that's so caught up on a freaking Instagram filter that they took legal action? It's ridiculous. Okay. So it's like the best thing you could do is communicate with your clients. Every client that I have, they sign a contract, but that contract is pointless to me. What carries the most weight is communication. I communicate with every client. I explain to them why I prefer they don't put filters on my pictures. I explain, hey, as a photographer, my work is my storefront. So if you put a filter on my work, you're essentially altering my storefront. And I would appreciate it if you didn't do that. If I deliver an image to you and there's a look that you want that I haven't provided, please let me know and I will be able to do that in a professional way. I don't have the problem of clients posting stuff and putting filters on there because I communicate. I don't just have people, my phone's going crazy here. I don't just have people sign a contract and then that's that. And then I never have a conversation with them. It's like, who cares if someone puts a filter on your picture? Yes, it may make the picture look like crap, but it's like at the end of the day, you can't police every client that you have. And if they got a picture out there, you literally send them a message and say, don't, you got to take that down. At most, what you could do, untag yourself. They likely will never know. It doesn't need to be a scene. Doesn't need to be called out. Doesn't need to be a big deal. If you don't like it, untag yourself. That's simple. And use it as a learning tool to say, my next client, I need to communicate better on why they shouldn't post filters. Okay. So I segued because that stuff, it definitely just ruffles my feathers because I get tired of people relying so heavily on a contract that essentially means nothing really. And like I said, you have to have it. But don't go into business thinking just because you have a contract that your client is going to be like, oh, I have a contract there. I signed this contract. So, oh, okay, I must do it. It's like, no, if they don't do it and you say, well, it's in the contract, you sign it. If they don't do it, then what? Again, you have to sue them. Number one. And number two, contracts are not as rock solid as you think they are. Like there have been many cases where people have still lost, even having a contract in place, because they either didn't have that contract reviewed by an attorney, so there was something in it or wasn't in it that needed to be there to really make that point solid. Or it could be something as simple as a judge will say, well, how would you expect a normal person to understand that? Your contract was too long. How would you expect anyone to read all of that? It happens, ladies and gentlemen. It happens. Like, don't think just because you have a contract that is the say all be all, and therefore what you have in there is what it's going to be, and that's going to be enforced. That's not the way it is. And if that's what you think, you need to think again. Okay. So Sony equals Apple, Canon. Oh, why we got to be Android? Nikon, BlackBerry. Ouch. Get them, Ryan. BlackBerry. Ouch. Is BlackBerry still around? I know at one point like they were going under. But I don't know if they're gone or not. Yes, so yeah, you're probably right, right? Okay, so going back to what I was saying, so there was a video. I don't remember which video it was, but there was a person that commented. Actually, let me see if I could let me see if I could find the comment, because quite frankly, I'm gonna call him out and say him by username, and I'm gonna read the comment, because if you're gonna post on my thing and say something foolish, I'm gonna call you out on it. Well, hopefully he didn't delete it. Okay, so it was on my my high speed sync versus ND filter. Why I always use an ND filter video. And the comment was, leave the ebonics out and get a broader audience. My response was, okay, and this was Jeb Winton. Okay, so Jeb Winton, if you were watching this live stream, middle finger to you. Okay. My response was, or I'll leave my ebonics in and not give a single damn about your opinion. Now, I get comments here and there all the time that are stupid, and I'll respond to them because it doesn't bother me. Like, I don't care about someone on the internet. Like, because people can say a lot of stuff on the internet and wouldn't say a word to you if they saw you in person on the streets. Matter of fact, they come up to you and be all on your nuts. So I don't care about the negative comments. I typically will respond to all of them because I don't care. Like, it doesn't ruffle my feathers. It doesn't upset me. It doesn't bother me. If anything, it just reiterates foolish people that are on the internet. But it's comical to me. It's funny. I don't care. But I wanted to bring it up in this video because I wanted to talk about how important it is, if you are a YouTube creator or just a creator in general, regardless of what that is, how important it is to always stay true to who you are as a person and as a creator. Because I do think that it can be really easy to get caught up in changing who you are or how you present yourself to make your audience or your clients happy. And when it comes to business, to a degree, do you have to do that? Absolutely, right? I'm a cusser. I cuss all the time. My mom don't know that. So if she's watching this, I love you, mom. I don't be cussing around my mom, but I do cuss. Obviously, when I'm around clients, am I going to be cussing in front of my clients? Of course not. So there's certain things that, as a professional, as a creator, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, there's certain aspects of yourself that, yes, you have to learn how to shelve that to be presentable to your clients. And you can look at that and say, I feel like I have to be fake. I feel like I have to be. That's just the reality of business. Okay. Like, there's certain things that are just culturally deemed unprofessional. Regardless of how you feel about it, regardless of if that's you as a person or not, there are certain things that are culturally unprofessional, and you just have to not do them if you want to appeal to a wider audience base. Now, there are people that'll say, I don't care. I'm going to be 100% me 100% of the time. And the clients that I get are the clients that I get. And that's commendable. Okay. If you want to be that way, that's cool. But looking at it from a little bit more of a broader perspective, doing something like YouTube, when I started this channel, one of the things that I always said to myself was that I was always going to be me. I wasn't going to get on here and, sit up straight with the shirt and tie on and have, this certain talk, this certain presentation, just so that way I can appeal to a wider audience. I'm like, no, I'll never do that. Because at the end of the day, what was more important to me was me being me being who I am, me being true to myself, and giving that to my YouTube audience. It's like what you see on my YouTube videos is me in person, minus the cussing. I cuss a little bit more in person. Ryan, SJ, T-Med, they can tell. I cuss a little bit more in person. But what you see in these videos, this is me. Like this is what I'm like in real life. And so as a creator, if you have a YouTube channel, or if you look at the comments on people's YouTube stuff, you will see how critical, how disrespectful, how mean, how arrogant people can be. And the thing that is crazy to me, two things. Number one, and I mentioned this in the beginning of this live, people don't even realize the amount of freaking work that goes into making these daggone videos. Like, y'all have no idea. Like, it is even alive. Like, it takes effort and work to make these videos. So people don't understand that. And that pisses me off, because someone will put a week into making a video just to have some fool comment something stupid, and then that person gets all hung up. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, and I done lost my thought on even what the number two was, because the number one just gets me all worked up. Number one, videos are hard to make. I don't know what the number two was. Okay. But if you're a YouTube creator, or if you look at comments, you'll see that there's just a lot of dumb stuff there. And not everybody that is in the YouTube space, not every creator, not every person is like me, to where they just don't care what people say. Like, I don't care what people say. I don't care about people's opinions. Like, if it's someone that means something to me, I will definitely take those opinions to heart, and I'll give it some thought. But it's like, at the end of the day, I'm still going to make my own decision based off of how I feel. It's like, I don't care what people think of me. I don't care about people's opinions. I don't care what people say. But there's a lot of people in the YouTube space, and just in life in general, that they don't think that same way. Like, they can put a week into making a video, someone can comment and say the video was trash, and it'll make them not want to make a video again, because it doesn't matter how many other people like the video. That one person saying the video was trash, that's enough to make them be like, oh, because they might have already been second guessing themselves anyway, whatever. So when I saw that comment, I laughed, and it just made me think about how people that watch YouTube videos seem to have this thought that they have a say-so in the content that the creator is making. And I just want to do a PSA to say, you don't. You don't. It's like, if you don't like my videos, don't watch my videos. But don't for a second think that you're going to come on my shit and tell me what I need to do or what I don't need to do. Like, you messed up thinking that that was even a smart move to even get your fingers to hit that keyboard and to even start typing that. Clearly, he hasn't watched my videos, because if he watched my videos, he would know not to even comment something like that, because never would I ever see a comment like that and be like, you're right. Let me not be who I am. It's like, listen, I'm refined now, but I was a hood dude. And how I talk is how I talk. And I'm never going to change that. I'm never going to change that. I have worked in business positions where I still talk the way that I talk. And that's just that. Now, if I'm in a meeting in front of someone important, am I sitting in my seats, slouched? No. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not changing who I am. Like, I'm going to be me. I'm going to talk how I want to talk. I'm going to move my head how I want to move my head. I'm going to move my hands the way I want to move my hands. It's like, I'm always going to be me. And if you are a creator, whether that's YouTube, photographer, an artist, whatever it is, always stay true to you, because there's going to be people that are going to look at you and they're going to feel like, nope, you need to be in this mold. You need to do it this way. You need to talk this way. You need to say this. You need to talk about these kind of things. You need to wear this. There's always going to be those people that think they know you better than you know you. Don't succumb to those people. Always be you. Like, I'm always going to be me. And I'll tell anyone that ever watches any video that I have that it's like, if you don't like me, if you don't like how I am, that's cool. Don't watch my videos. I don't care. It's like at the end of the day, it's like I'm not making videos to please everybody. Like I'm making the videos that I want to make, and I hope that people out there enjoy them and can rock with my videos. But if they don't work for you, that's cool. It's like I'm not changing how I do things. I'm not going to speak a different way just so that way you're happy. So Jeb, if you're watching this video, F you, man. And I really don't even normally give this much time and attention to stupid comments. I normally just respond and I keep it moving because I really don't care about them. But today, I had time today. So, okay. Go through these here. Let's see. Yep. Right on. Ryan, you're not talking to me on what I'm using to stream, right? I'm just on YouTube. Are you talking about a camera? I shoot with the Canon T7, just starting, still learning. Good stuff, DJ Mouse. Man, my first camera was a T4i. I bought that back in 2012, 2013. Still have that camera, still use that camera. So don't think for a second that you can't create some solid content with your T7. Okay, man. And I mean, I know like I'm all worked up because there's just stuff that just annoys me about just people in YouTube. But YouTube will have you thinking that, oh, if you got this entry level camera, it's you're no good. You got to have full frame. You got to have this. You got to have that. You don't have to have nothing. Okay? Like you got to have the camera that you have. It's like that T4i. And you know what? I should do a video where I use that T4i and I illustrate. Man, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do a T4i versus R5 video, and then I'm gonna put it out there, and then just say vote on which camera you think took which picture. But yeah, it's like YouTube these days will have you thinking that you have to have this, you have to have that, and if you don't have that, then you can't get good images. Or if you're a professional, you have to have this certain kind of stuff. Like I actually was gonna do this live talking about, and I'll probably just do a video on it, just talking about glow modifiers. Like you can't really see them, but I got a ton of glow modifiers. Like I rock with glow modifiers. But there will be people out there that will say, oh well, glow modifiers aren't professional because this, that, and the other. Now, are there things about them that I wish they'd have done different? Sure. But at the end of the day, it's like a true professional can use whatever they have and can create great content with whatever they have. Now, there's definitely like my T4i versus my R5. Does my R5 make my job easier? 100%. 100%. It's like, I wouldn't sell my R5 to go back to using the T4i because the R5 is more efficient. The autofocus is better. There's more megapixels. There's things about it that makes the R5 the right tool for me, as a full-time photographer. But this notion that I couldn't get great content using the T4i is Sony YouTube people. They're the ones that'll have you thinking that, those Sony folks. Let's see here. Yeah, Ryan. So I'm using the EOS webcam utility, and then yeah, it goes straight into YouTube. Oh, so if it's YouTube, you can't bring people on. Okay, well we'll have to talk in our group text to see what I need to get to be able to. I thought, man, for some reason I feel like I've seen live, or is that maybe I've been on Instagram and people be having people in on the Instagram live. Maybe that's where I'm thinking that I'm thinking I could do that on here. For some reason I feel like I thought I've seen like YouTube lives where people, man, hold up, didn't so that live Ice live where y'all went in, was it because he was streaming through something? I could start using OBS. I got OBS. Okay. See, I'll have to figure out the OBS. I tried to do that the last live and struggle was real. I don't know much about the live stuff because I just started going live. So I couldn't figure it out. So I was like, screw it. Um, so yeah, I'll figure that one out for the next one because I was really hoping to have you guys jump in this, especially when I was talking about the Nikon stuff. So I'll figure that out. We'll talk about it and we'll figure it out. So yeah, I think man, how long have I been streaming? An hour and 15 minutes. I gotta I gotta go to the post office. I gotta go to Home Depot. Nope, mid. I'm just I got the grip in, just doing the battery thing. And I think I still got man, I think I still got like two bars left. But yeah, now you can't man, you can't get the dummy batteries right now, man. Like you can't find them anywhere. And I'm too nervous to try to get like one of the cheap third party ones because I've some of the reviews, man, it's like I mean, I probably wouldn't mind in this 6D2. That's what I'm rocking on right now, but I don't know, man. I just if I can't get the Canon one, I don't want to mess with it. Yeah, so I'm trying to set up some a shoot for next week that maybe I can go live with. I really shouldn't even say I'm trying to set it. In my mind, I'm like, I need to set up something for next week. I want to do a live photo shoot next week. I think I will have time to do it. It's like mid, I can't be doing like that 9, 10 o'clock stuff because I don't be having nobody coming in my space. I'm can't be doing that. But I want to get a portrait thing set up. I definitely want to start doing regular content. So ideally, what I would like to do is have a video where I'm talking about whatever, whether it's just product that I use or some kind of tip, something like that. And then I want to have a video later in the week where I'm doing a photo shoot where I'm utilizing whatever it was that I was talking about in the video earlier in the week. So that's my goal. And I know mid, you're gonna tell me like don't hope, don't wish, manifest. So I'm manifesting. I'm mentioning it in front of everybody. So that way you guys can hold me accountable. I'm gonna do my best to get it started next week. It's just it's tough. It's tough because being a entrepreneur, like there's so much stuff that you have to do that it sometimes is hard to find the time to do stuff that like isn't making you money. So as much as I be wanting to do these things, it's just like I could even have the plan to do it. But then if something comes up that day, if I got to make phone calls, respond to an email, I got a last minute shoot, I got to help my buddy with his business, do this, do that. It's hard to still prioritize reaching out to a model and doing a TFP shoot for YouTube stuff. Like I love making my YouTube videos, but it's like at the end of the day, like YouTube isn't paying my bills. So it's hard sometimes to find that time. And I don't have like the network of models here to where I can just hit up. What I need is like 2 or 3 just solids to where if I need to make a video, I can hit up one of those 3 and I can make that content. But I don't have that right now. And to be frank, I've not done anything to even materialize that. So that's on me. So I need to work on that because I definitely want to put out more content of me doing photo shoots. Because if you look at my channel, you would think that I don't actually shoot because I don't have any of that stuff on here. But like I was talking to my guys when I was back home a couple weeks ago. For me, like I don't have that mindset of being at a shoot. Like prime example, I had 2 sessions yesterday or 2 days ago, and I meant to take pictures, BTS. I was going to record it. I was going to do all this stuff. I got on location. By the time I came home, I took not a single BTS picture or video. My mind just doesn't go there. Like I'm so focused on the session itself and doing my job that I'm not thinking about all the other stuff. So that's where it's hard for me because I'm just not in that mindset. But I do want to start showing more uh actual photo shoots because I do think that that's really helpful for people. Like I can talk all day about the fundamentals of photography or give you this tip or, talk about this item, this gear, whatever. But seeing me actually use that stuff and apply it, to me is a lot more valuable than just me talking about it. So I do want to change that. So that's something that I'm planning to do with this channel. And yeah, I just want to have regular content. I need to have regular content on my social media stuff. I am terrible at posting on social media. I do not post on social media ever. I got it. I got to work these things into my daily workflow to where it just becomes a normal part of the day. And that's a struggle for me because I've never really got on board with social media stuff. It's like I just where social media has become, social media is a depressing place to me. So I try to stay off of it. But I'm there because number one, like I want to support my guys and support other creators and content. And it is good for inspiration sometimes, but there's just so much negative stuff in the social media space that it's a huge turnoff to me. So I try not to really be in social media. Like I never watch the news ever. So most of the time I don't even know what's going on in the world because I just don't. I like to just stay in my place and just be happy because there's just so much negative stuff out there. I just don't want to submerge myself in that. So, I struggle with social media because although there are good things about it, there's a lot of negative stuff about it. So I tend to shy away from it. But as a photographer, as a full-time photographer, I need to be on social media. So I got to work on that. So yeah, that's the future of the channel. That is all I got for the day. It is pushing 12 o'clock here my time, so I need to bang off here and get some stuff done. But yeah, I definitely appreciate you rocking. Again, I will say this is a live, so if you made it this far, you already know that. But if you just fast forward to the end or whatever, this was a live. I'm not gonna change anything. It is what it is. So, yep, I appreciate it. SJ, T Mid, Ryan, I'll be talking to you guys in our group text. For the rest of you, I appreciate you being here. If you're watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. I know these are long. I will probably add some chapters because I talked about different stuff, so I'll probably add some chapters. But yeah, that is that. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. I will see you next week. Peace.